Morning everyone. So I just finished giving Pepper a bottle. Just wanted to show you guys what it's looking like around here now. As you can see, most of our pastures melted off. And looking back there around our pivots, you can see that we've still got, piles of snow still out in the fields. But it's going, it's melting. We've had, I think, 5 or 6 pretty warm days, been around the 70s, and that sure made it melt pretty quick. We're already starting to see a little bit of flooding. We hadn't even started getting into the high runoff time of year. I mean, there's still snow all across the valley floor. And we hadn't even started getting much into the mountains yet. So the flooding that we're seeing now is mostly from the snow melt off the valley, and of course, some off the mountains just because it's been so warm. I'll show you what we got going just around my house. As you can see here, we've already got a little puddle of water, and this is all subwater. So this is water that's coming up from underneath. So we got the slough right here, and it's starting to run pretty high. Then my house is just right over here. I'm not worried about our house flooding because we put it up pretty high on the foundation, but we might get some water in our crawl space. Just something we're keeping an eye on. So we're supposed to cool down quite a bit the next 3 or 4 days. We're supposed to get quite a bit of rain, so we'll see how that turns out. Let's go for a quick drive and I'll show you what's going on around my neighbors' places. So just looking here right in this borrow pit, this is just right in front of my house. So my house is right over there. You can see we're already getting water coming up in the borrow pit. So we'll keep going down the road and I'll show you what else is going on. More of the same, flooding in the borrow pits, the corner of this field. So right over here, this is where we're fighting the elk all winter, where them wagons are. And that's our hay shed right there. So just to kind of give you a perspective on where we're at here. So this here is my neighbor's place that borders us just right to the north. You can see the whole field's flooded. The water is actually running through his field here. You can see the current rippling through here. Because the Tin Cup River is just right here, right on the other side of these willows, or right in front of these willows here. It's come over the banks and it's flooded this whole area. So if you can see that fence right there, that's us just on the south side of that fence. That's where my dad's cows are kept and where all the milk were coming through earlier this winter. It was right across through here. And if you look, you can actually see the water running down this borrow pit. You see the current ripples. All this water that's running through my neighbor's field is coming back and dumping back into the river right there. I don't know if you can kind of see that little waterfall. It dumps back into Tin Cup. And the same thing in this borrow pit. So all this water is running down the borrow pit and dumping back into the river right up here on this side of the bridge. So this right here, between that willow and that willow, that's the normal water channel where the water usually flows. You can see how far it's gone out of its banks here. Looking here on the other side of the bridge, more of the same. So that channel goes right here. Now it's overflowing its banks up here and flooding that whole field up there. And then this neighbor's field here, the whole pool of water right there. And more of the same down in these borrow pits. This is all within about 600 yards of my house. So just a quick stop. So that's the bridge that we were just on. I just wanted to show you the amount of snow that's still on the ground right here in some of these fields. So as you can see, there's still a good, I don't know, 5-6 inches of snow out on these fields here. So all this standing water that you see, this isn't usually here. These guys will hay this field here eventually. That's just the amount of water that's around here. Now we're down to Randall's place where you saw me feeding cows a month or so ago. And all these swales are full of water. We'll run up here another mile or so and I'll show you the Salt River and show you what it's doing. So for anybody not familiar with the area that I live in, this is the Salt River, and this is the largest river that runs through Star Valley. So pretty much all these other little rivers and streams will eventually lead into the Salt River. And the Salt River leads into the Snake River, and the Snake River eventually leads into the Columbia, which dumps out into the Pacific Ocean. So everything I just showed you guys is all within about 2.5 miles of our place. So that's where we're sitting right now. I don't know when we'll be able to get into the fields. We're still waiting on snow to melt, and probably by the time the snow melts, they'll be halfway underwater. So I'm just not sure what to expect. I know by this time last year, we were already done with our farming, with our spring farming, and we haven't even thought about starting yet. I've been pretty slow with Old Dominion though last week, so that's given me a chance to do all our spring maintenance, or at least get going on it. I haven't really filmed much of it just because it's, your basic oil changes and stuff, and I'll just point out to you what I have done. So on this tractor here, I changed the oil, the filters. We're having a problem with the windshield wiper, fixed that. Then just your normal greasing and maintenance stuff on that, and we're waiting on a fuel filter for this. For some reason, the parts stores have been having a hard time finding the one or getting it. And on this backhoe, I just greased it up. I cleaned out the air filters, blew out the radiator. Then on this, we need to replace the head gasket because we're starting to get some oil in the coolant. So I didn't do too much on that just because we got that project ahead of us. And on this little Alice Chalmers tractor, pretty much the same thing. Changed the oil, filters, fuel filters, changed the air filter in it, greased it up, checked all the fluid levels. So that one's ready to go. Then the same thing on this green Deutz, air filters, oil filter, fuel filters, greased it up, blew out the engine because as I said before, this Deutz Alice here, the engine's air cooled, so it doesn't have any coolant in it. So it has a bunch of fins that you need to clean out and keep cleaned. And I'm glad I did that because the mouse had built a nest up on top of the block. And so I had to clean out a whole bunch of dead grass and stuff and get that cleaned out. So what I'm working on now is this groundhog. So we use this to run over our hay ground. And all I've done with this so far is just, grease the bearings. I checked the teeth on all these S-tines, and they still got plenty of life in them. So when I was doing the maintenance on this, I found one of the wheel bearings had gone out. And you can see here, this is part of the bearing. All them rollers are just sitting in there, grinding. So I'm glad we caught that before we did any damage to that spindle. So that's what I was working on last night, getting them braces and stuff beaten off of there. So I had to use a torch to cut off part of that bearing. You see here, that was seized right onto that spindle. So I had to use a torch to cut that off. So when my dad runs the thing today, he's gonna grab the new wheel bearings and seals. Hopefully we get this tied up today and be done with this. But what I'd really like to get done today is get this shelter cleaned out. I pull out all these boards that we've kept, and we got posts in here and fencing materials. I'd like to move all that stuff and store it somewhere else. And I'd like to take this and move it down to where my cows are and put it down there for another calf shelter. Because I've gotten so many calves now that they all don't fit in that shelter I've got down there now. And if it's supposed to be rainy and yucky for the next 4 or 5 days, I'd like to have a second shelter down there. That way all the calves can get under shelter and get out of this rain and muck whenever it comes. Battery's dead. Now I'm going to shut all this wood into this calf barn. I'm not going to worry about that right at this moment. It's starting to rain, so I want to try to get this shelter moved. I'm hoping it's not still frozen into the ground, because when I was pulling up some of those boards, there's still some ice there along the bottom, so hoping it's not frozen. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to pack it out of there either, but we'll figure it out. So I think what I'm going to do first, I'm going to pull this pipe out, then I can come in here sideways and get the forks on the backhoe under that pipe. See if I can't pick up this front end here and break it loose. How I'm thinking about how I'll move it is I'm gonna go find a couple long pipes I can slide on these outside forks here, and I'm gonna try to slide them forks in here in the top and hopefully catch that second brace on the inside there. Then this pipe goes all the way out to the end here And I'm thinking maybe I can loop a chain or a strap to this pipe here on the outside and run it back this way and tie it to the uprights on the backhoe. And I'm hoping if I do that, I can just come in there, pick it up, and tip the whole thing back up like that and carry it down there. So let's give that a try. That seems to be working all right. So let's run it down to the pasture and set it down. And we'll go feed, and I'll come back and grab a straw bale and go spread a straw bale inside of it. So I just set it right here next to my other calf shelter. I got some curious calves in there. What I'm going to do when I come back is I'm going to use this pipe that we used to pack it over here. I'm going to pull that pipe out. I'm going to set it across the front here to keep the cows out. Then the calves can go underneath and get inside, you know, just like this one here. And then I'll probably just bring some wire and wire it up to these angles here and just hang it down, maybe a foot or two. So I'm hoping that that pipe will be heavy enough that when the cows touch it, it'll feel like it's solid and they won't push on it too much. So we'll try that, and if that doesn't work, we'll figure out something else. This back window here does close. So once I pull this pipe out, I'll just close that. So I just finished feeding the cows. So I think this will keep them distracted long enough that I can go get those shelters ready and go grab that straw bale and spread it in these shelters. So I only needed half this straw bale, so that's why I grabbed it like that. So in this way, hopefully the grapple will hold this section here. I can cut the strings, then flop off about half of it, then retie the other half, save it for another day. Something nice about using this manure spreader also is it makes a really good bed ground. Well, these calves seem pretty excited about it. I left a little bit of straw in the spreader just to go put it in another calf shed, top it off too. I didn't take long and did it. So I guess one good thing about all this rain we're supposed to be getting is it should knock down the rest of this snow. So hopefully by the time all these storms pass through, there won't be any more snow on the ground. At least that's what I'm hoping. Well, I didn't get quite as much done as what I wanted to today. Just how it goes sometimes, but hope you guys enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching. Have a good day.